Okay, so ready to dive in. Today we're looking at all the big stuff from the AI Daily News Digest for April 8th, 2025.
Yeah, so good.
Our listeners want to know what's important, what are the breakthroughs, and how can they use this stuff to stay ahead of the curve. So no time to waste. Let's jump right in.
Right into the deep end.
Exactly. And speaking of deep dives, the biggest splash today is definitely Llama 4.
Oh, yeah. Meta's really making waves with this one.
It's not just one model, though, right? It's a whole family. Scout and Maverick leading the charge. And what's really got people buzzing is that native multimodal input.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's basically teaching AI to see the world the way we do, like processing images and text together.
So not just reading, but understanding.
Exactly.
And then there's the context windows. These are huge. Scout is rocking a 10 million token window.
10 million. That's like remembering an entire library.
And Maverick clocks in at a cool million. Still massive. Imagine having a conversation and being able to reference anything that was said even hours ago.
That's some serious long-term memory. But hold on. There's already some chatter in the Cursor Discord saying that Llama 4 might not be so hot at coding.
Really?
Yeah, some developers are saying it's not living up to the hype.
But Meta claims it beats Gemma 3 and Gemini 2.0 Flashlight.
Well, benchmarks are one thing. Real-world performance is another. We'll have to see how it actually plays out.
And what about that 10 million token context window for Scout?
Some folks over at Perplexity AI are raising eyebrows. They're saying it might be more like a theoretical limit, like maybe it wasn't actually trained on data that long.
So is it just marketing fluff?
Could be.
Yeah.
We need more data, more real-world tests to know for sure.
Okay, so performance is one thing, but the licensing for Llama 4 is also causing a stir, especially for big companies and users in the EU.
Right. The rules are different for them. Companies with over 700 million monthly users need a special license from Meta to even use it. And for the multimodal features, anyone in the EU needs a special license too.
So it's not exactly an open playground.
Definitely not. It seems like Meta's trying to balance open innovation with control, especially with these powerful new multimodal capabilities.
It's interesting, though, that for all its smarts, Llama 4 doesn't even know what MCP is.
MCP, the Meta Control Protocol.
Yeah, it's like asking a master chef if they know how to use a stove.
Right. Shows that even the most advanced AIs have their blind spots.
Speaking of advancements, there's this cool new technique called neural graffiti. It's about making these big, pre-trained models more adaptable.
Yeah, it's like giving them neuroplasticity, the ability to learn new things without a whole retraining process.
How does it even work?
They basically add a new layer of neurons that can store memories and tweak how the model predicts the next word.
So it's like fine-tuning, but without starting from scratch.
Exactly. Could be a huge time saver. And the best part, the code and a demo are open source on GitHub.
So anyone can play around with it. That's awesome.
Definitely opens up a lot of possibilities.
Now, we've talked about Llama 4 and the licensing implications. What does this tell us about Meta's head of AI research?
Well, even though we don't have names in the digest, this is clearly a major push from the top. Releasing a model family like this shows they're serious about AI.
It's not just research, though, right? It's about shaping the future of the field.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. There's some buzz around TripoSF in the context of AI-powered website building.
Yeah, folks in the Unsloth AI Discord are comparing it with Manus and Claude. Some even suggest Root Code and OpenRouter might be better choices.
So it's a crowded space with lots of options popping up.
Exactly. And users are becoming more discerning. They're not just looking for any AI solution. They want the one that fits their needs and budget.
It's not just about the tech anymore. It's about finding the right tool for the job.
Right.
Now let's talk about something that really caught my eye. Self-principled critique tuning, or SPCT.
From DeepSeek.
Yeah. It's like teaching AI to think critically about its own work.
It's a really interesting approach to reward modeling. Instead of relying on humans to define what's good reasoning, SPCT lets the model develop its own principles.
So the AI is basically setting its own standards.
And then it uses those standards to critique its own chain of thought outputs.
Wow, that's next level.
DeepSeek believes this will lead to more scalable and robust AI systems. They're calling it a step towards System 2 thinking.
More deliberate, more analytical.
Precisely.
Okay, finally, let's talk about MCP, the Meta Control Protocol. This one seems to have everyone excited.
It's all about breaking down barriers between AIs and tools. Imagine any AI being able to use any digital tool seamlessly.
Like a universal translator for AI and software.
Exactly. And the Aider Discord is building a client that could make this a reality,
So any LLM could access this huge ecosystem of tools.
regardless of its native capabilities.
It's huge.
And they're designing it with openness in mind, supporting OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, DeepSeek.
So it's not about locking people into one platform.
No, it's about making AI more accessible and versatile.
The MCP Discord is also working on standardizing the protocol.
They're even developing a detailed HTTP streamable protocol.
So it's not just talk, they're actually building the infrastructure.
And we're seeing real-world applications already, like a SemGrep MCP server for finding security vulnerabilities in code.
They even build a WhatsApp MCP client. Someone got Claude to handle WhatsApp messages, understanding different languages and everything.
Amazing, right? But there are also challenges, like that reported exploit on WhatsApp MCP through invariant injection.
Yeah, security is a big concern when you're connecting AIs to external services.
Absolutely.
It's funny, though, that Llama 4 doesn't even know what MCP is.
It shows that even with all the progress we've made, there's still a gap between these cutting-edge models and emerging standards.
Like they're evolving on separate tracks.
But it's just a matter of time before they converge. And the fact that the Cohere Discord says MCP should work with their Command A model via the OpenAI SDK is a good sign.
Cohere's own tool use framework also seems to be on the same page as MCP.
It seems like the whole industry is moving towards this idea of universal tool calling.
So what are the big takeaways from all this?
Well, for me, it's the incredible pace of innovation. We're seeing breakthroughs in both the core capabilities of AI and the ways we connect these AIs to the real world.
It's like we're entering a new era of AI where anything is possible.
But with that comes a huge responsibility. As AI becomes more powerful and integrated, we need to make sure it's used for good.
That's a conversation we need to keep having.
Absolutely.
So to our listeners out there, what stood out to you the most from today's deep dive? What questions are you wrestling with? Let's keep the conversation going.
Because the future of AI is something we're all building together.